Flow with the show. All right, we're rolling. We're flowing.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, I'm doing all right. How are you, man?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. It's Monday morning. I'm just getting the week started. So just planning out my week. And I got a pretty cool video planned for this week. So just working towards that.
Awesome. You've been absolutely crushing it with all of your video stuff. And I've just been so proud to see you, making a name for yourself with music production online. And, sometimes you'll see like Facebook groups and people are like, who are the best, tutorials online or that kind of thing. And I'll always see your name. And I'm just so proud.
Thank you so much. And every time I do see that, it's definitely really humbling to see the response that my content has been making. And I've just been doing this for just shy of a year, and the feedback has been amazing. It really keeps me going on. So thanks for that.
Absolutely. It's so crazy to think that you've only been doing it for a year. I mean, I know you've had so many years of a journey with, making music itself. Did you ever see yourself, doing this kind of thing? Like, what's that kind of journey like towards this specific music education thing?
Yeah. Before we get into that, should we introduce ourselves?
Yeah, absolutely. I was definitely going to do like a little write-up of your bio in the description. Yeah. I didn't want to butcher your bio. I was like, born in, but yeah, absolutely. Please, go ahead and introduce yourself. I'd love for you to sort of just, it's so like kind of surreal to like, how do we describe ourselves as human beings? So in your own words, please tell the audience who you are.
So for those that are not familiar with my face or my name, my name is STRANJAH, and I am known in the drum and bass world as a music producer. And just over the last year, I have kind of pivoted my career towards more education. So educating the next generation of music producers and providing tools and resources out there so that anyone who wants to succeed in music production can succeed, and really want to push that next generation to carry the torch of drum and bass and beyond.
Yes, I love that. Drum and bass and beyond.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know me, I'm flowanastasia. Previously used to go by the artist name Anastasia. Changed it to my longtime handle flowanastasia for search purposes. Primarily do electronic music, vocals. I've done a lot of different things over the years, and I'm sort of in a new chapter in my life now. I'm STRANJAH, as you know, as well. It's just been about a week and a half now that I am officially no longer working in a corporate environment. Excuse me, choked up a little bit. No. I've been sort of working in various corporate jobs and, went to business school and that sort of thing, working in those kinds of environments for the last 10 years. And at this moment, sort of going through a new chapter where I'm no longer employed, and sort of will kind of see what happens over the next few months as I live on my savings and try to, really go hard with all my passions for music and, content creation and trying to get better at videos and all these kinds of things. And so, and this podcast as well, this is something that I've been thinking about doing for a very long time. So thank you again so much for being here with me.
Yeah, and I'm very pleased to be here, and thank you for sharing your story. It's definitely something that is relatable because I also went through a similar journey as you, leaving the corporate environment and then trying to find where I should take my career and direction of my artistic career. So it's definitely a story that a lot of us can relate to, and definitely encourage you to keep up with this podcast. What I would say is everyone has a unique story to tell, and you have a compelling story that I think others could relate to, and I think it would be helpful for others to hear your story. So yeah, I definitely support this show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That really means a lot to me. It's one of those things that it's, there's so much uncertainty, and I mean, even when I was working in a corporate environment, there's uncertainty there as well. And I just, I'm actually curious to talk to you about, you know, with you going through your journey from working a long time in corporate and then, you know, doing what you've been doing over the last few years. I'm sure I can only imagine there was like a period of like adaptation and I guess a lot of uncertainty and having to, you know, pivot and then, you know, persevere through dark times and that sort of thing. And I'm so, I don't know, again, it's just, I admire you so much for, you know, keeping a brave face through all of that and then, you know, succeeding through it. And I'm curious kind of what was that journey like for you, especially like in the early months?
Yeah, so I'll step back a couple and from that time frame talk how I came into this new chapter. So I was working a corporate job for almost 15 years as a business analyst. I was pretty much creating insight from mass amounts of data, and that was what I did. And funny enough, I found it similar to making music. The way you manipulate data and manipulate Excel sheets and using coding to rearrange data, I found that there was a similar skill in that moving clips of audio left and right vertically, and it is a lot similar to data. So it was something that I spoke about during work, and that my experience making music is a transferable skill here in that it helps me to become a better business or data analyst. I was doing that for about, almost 15 years. However, it was not fulfilling to say the least. There'd be days and nights just wondering when can I get out of this rat race. And when you work a job that isn't fulfilling, it's there's this almost like a void in your soul, kind of wondering what you should be doing with your life. So you could burn yourself out doing something that you don't enjoy, and that could the buildup of those feelings can have a detrimental effect on your health, on your mind. So definitely I went through that. There's a period of depression. I had some health issues that actually that's something. That's really why I encourage everyone out there to find something that they enjoy doing. It may not be your number one passion, but if you can enjoy doing it, that helps a lot more, because otherwise the negative feelings will compact, and it'll start to take shape in your health, your mental and physical health. And that's what happened to me. I was overworked doing a job I didn't like, and in effect, it affected my health, and then it affected my results at work. I couldn't put my 100% at work. So it's like a lose-lose situation, because if you don't enjoy doing what you're doing, the company also loses as well, because you're not 100% there, and that had an effect on my performance. And essentially, short end of the story, it didn't work out with my last job. I was going downhill health-wise, and it affected my work. So we parted ways, and that was about 3.5 years ago. And I would say it was a blessing in disguise, although I didn't know it at the time yet.
Right.
I had to spend a lot of time just soul searching and finding out what to do. What is the next step in my life and career? So I was experimenting with or exploring different avenues. I was already promoting events with my crew, Rump Shakers. So we were doing that regularly in Toronto, and we were throwing raves with like 200 to 400 people at warehouses, and that was fun. It was a lot of work though, but hopefully once this this is all over, we can throw events again. But that was more, I guess, more of a hobby in terms of what I wanted to do full time. I was still trying to figure that out. So I was exploring video production, doing video production for other companies, contracting work out. So I built up some skills doing that. In the meantime, I was still trying to look for work. So I was
right. I forgot about that moment. Right.
Oh yeah. I was still. I didn't. Although I was terminated from my job, I didn't know that. Like, I was still thinking about re-entering the corporate world. So I was still looking for work. I sent thousands of resumes out but didn't get any response back. So there was that. I was exploring other ventures, video production. I was exploring. I sketch as well, so I was trying to get back into sketching as well. But nothing really stuck. Although I had some good experience doing video production, it didn't really pop off as a business venture. And then I guess about a year and a half ago, I started to visit doing YouTube tutorials again. So I had one or two tutorials online before, like 9-10 years ago. And a friend of mine, Maurice Levy, always encouraged me to visit YouTube and explore the platform. But I never really took it too seriously until recently. And then, just a year and a half ago, I started to experiment with YouTube a little more, putting up my educational material. First several videos had like minimal success or moderate success. I still didn't really take it seriously. I didn't think it could flourish as a career. So I just did it more as kind of a side hustle, I guess, while still making music, still sending resumes out, trying to get a job. And then around last year in around March or February, I was reading an article about this couple in Ontario who had a YouTube channel, and their channel was about living in a van and their lifestyle and how they lived day to day in a van. And they had 4,000 or 5,000 subscribers, and they were talking about how they were able to make ends meet and live a lifestyle just off this channel. And I was quite amazed. I thought, wow, that's all it takes. And really, when you have information, once you believe that something is possible, then there's almost this shift in your mindset. It's like, oh, if that's possible, maybe I can do it too. And that's when the light bulb kind of lit off in my head, and decided to maybe I should try this. And shortly after, my channel started to grow almost exponentially. And I kind of took that as the universe telling me, okay, you should be doing this, because I've tried 10 other things and none of them worked, but this seemed to work just instantly. Sometimes when things work almost easily for you, it's kind of like life telling you that maybe you should be doing this. And sometimes we don't want to hear that. We want to do things our way. We want to do what we want to do. For example, I was still gung-ho on finding a job or trying to video production. I was also learning how to trade and invest on the side. So I thought those were going to be what I was doing. And I didn't really want to listen that, okay, maybe I should be focusing my time doing online education. So once I listened to that inner voice a little and acted on it, things started to unravel for me. And I guess that's how I am here today. Just listening to that.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, listening to that inner voice and just following it. At first, you may not want to listen to it. You have to just sometimes put your ego down, humble yourself, surrender to that direction, and take action. See what happens, right? You never know until you try it.
It's unbelievable to think that, like, because I remember, I've been friends for a few years, and in that period is I remember when you were, constantly like applying for jobs and that sort of thing. And I can only imagine, like, what would have happened if you actually got one of those jobs? Like, would any of this have happened? And, maybe yes, but it sounds like, it's crazy that, like, the universe kind of, like, forced you into this direction, because literally everything else you tried wasn't really working out as well. That's such a beautiful thing. I mean, it's so well deserved for you, because you did try so many different things, and you did persevere through so long. Like, it was certainly not one of those things of like, oh, it was an overnight success. I just, you really, I mean, I can't imagine how tough it was to kind of, spend that long, like, trying different things and having it not work out, and then kind of almost be like forced into a corner with, trying yet again something else, and then it finally working out for you. Good for you, man. Honestly, that is that must be such a day-to-day challenge as well, of like kind of having to wake up every day and kind of go through that and try. I'm curious, like, in those sort of the darker moments, was there anything that helped you, face another day and just keep trying something new and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think you just have to take each day as a new day, right? And be thankful. One of the key things that I learned last year from a very nice conversation with a friend is learning the practice of gratitude, right? So being thankful for what you have already, right? It's interesting once you shift that mindset of having gratitude for what you already have, like just being here, having the opportunities that I have, having a roof over my head, having the friends and family that I do have, right? Then for some odd reason, that mindset opens you up to new opportunities and ideas. So I think that really helped me, is learning and practicing gratitude.
Do you, I was doing this for a little while last year. I haven't really anymore, but do you keep like a gratitude journal at all?
I don't, but that's a good idea. I can definitely see the benefits. In the morning, I typically spend 10, 15 minutes of meditation and a couple minutes to just think about things that I have gratitude for. And there is so much that you can have gratitude for when you can stop and think about it. And it's not even just the big things, just even the normal everyday things.
Yeah.
Being able to walk on 2 feet. I'm happy that I can do that. I'm happy and have gratitude that I can feed myself and make food for myself and breathe fresh air, right?
Yeah, the practice of like doing the journal, and again, I let it go, because as usual, like, things that are good for you are hard to maintain. But I did find that, just going through the process of kind of writing it down, and so there was a while of I was writing like at the end of the day, like an email to myself called gratitude journal with the date almost every day for a while. And I'd write down, it did really help me focus on the smaller things, because, if I only did it maybe once a month, or I did it as well at the end of 2020 of like all the things I was grateful for this year. And I'd never really done that before. But the process of writing it down every single day definitely helped me see or like point out, I guess, some of the smaller things. And when I looked back on that, maybe a few months later, I came across one of them and I just took a glance at it. It was kind of cool, because I was like, oh yeah, like I would have never remembered all of these kinds of the smaller things that you can be grateful for every day. And I think I've been trying to keep that mindset of gratitude on a daily basis without writing it down. So I don't know, but it is kind of like one of those things where, yes, it's good for you, but there's only so much you can do in a day. And it's kind of like physical exercise where I know that's good for me too. And yet I still really have to kind of force myself into it each time. And I think meditation is something similar where I really always feel the benefits from it. And it's been really hard to be consistent with over the years. Meditation is something that I've been really on and off with for many years. I first kind of came across trying it maybe like 10 years ago. And for a while, for a couple of years, I was really doing it, I think, almost every day. I was doing like silent meditation, not for very long, maybe like 10, 20 minutes back then. And then I got to a point where I guess I thought I didn't need it anymore because I was like, it brought me to a place where I'm like, oh, I'm good now. Now I'm just going to make sure I meditate in waking life as I go about my day. And yeah, maybe that worked out for like a month or two. And again, this is sort of like in my early 20s, but having kind of let go of that practice completely, then things spiraled into many years of, whatever else the journey was. But I'd only really started to get back into meditation in the last few years. And I'm like, oh man, this is really something that I should have been doing and that I should do as much as possible. And I'd really love for it to be part of more of like the common conversation with people. I find that within my family and people close to me, it's still something that I guess is not as commonly practiced or considered to be a good thing as is physical exercise. Like everybody knows physical exercise is good for the body. I really think meditation is so good for you. And some of the feedback I hear, I guess, is like, for example, someone in my family had said, why would I meditate if that means I clear my mind of thoughts? That means I'm not worried about anything, which means I'm ignoring my problems. So, interesting misconception. They almost kind of looked at it as though it was like drugs where you're like escaping your problems, where it's almost kind of the exact opposite of that. Yeah. Another kind of misconception I've heard is like, I don't think that breathing differently can help me. And of course, it's not just about the breathing differently, but, in any case. So I'm curious to talk about it with you because I know it is an important part of your life. And I wonder if you've ever kind of had an experience of, sharing it with people around you, and how do you kind of encourage people, or maybe what are some of the misconceptions that you've heard, and how can we kind of, encourage people to try it?
Yeah, I definitely agree in that we push ourselves to take care of ourselves physically, and I think the same attitude would be beneficial if we were to do the same thing for our mind, right, and our emotions. So I definitely agree that it's good to encourage this discussion and this attitude towards this self-care, because we put so much effort into taking ourselves physically. Shouldn't we do the same thing about the mental, right? So I agree with you there. Overall, my feedback I haven't had too much of a negative feedback. The only thing that sometimes I hear is the woo-woo-ness of meditation. However, it's when you experience meditation in itself, then those thoughts dissipate, because you'll realize it's not woo-woo. It's as simple as focusing and concentrating and sitting with yourself and observing what's happening internally, right? That's not woo-woo at all, because we can all do it and we can all experience it. In fact, there is a lot of science behind the benefits of meditation. I'm not someone to be quoted on, because I'm not the best to quote science behind it, but I've seen videos and articles about how it I guess synchronizes the left and right hemisphere and optimizes it. It's almost like when you have a hard drive and you have all these files all over the place.
Yes.
Every once in a while, you need to run what's called a defrag, which sorts all the files and optimizes all the, I guess, connections within the hard drive, which would be analogous to your brain, right? So I find it definitely is a daily practice. I try my best as well. Like you, once in a while, I feel like maybe I don't need to, and then I realize, oh, I need to come back to that place. And once you come back to it, it's like, wow, I should have done this sooner, right? So yeah, for those that out there that are new or unfamiliar with meditation, I do encourage you to explore about it. There's tons of resources online, and again, it's not anything scary or anything. I wouldn't even say it's spiritual. It's more like a mental practice, which you can, I guess, get spiritual benefits if that's what you're after. But if you're more, I guess, agnostic, right? Then you can. It's still a practice that you can partake in because it's simply exercising the mind.
Mm-hmm. I do really like that computer analogy you gave, because the person whose feedback was about the you're kind of you're ignoring your problems, like, is a very computer like sciencey person. So I was like, perhaps I'll use that analogy. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think it's maybe one of the reasons that I let go of the practice is and maybe for a lot of people, it's that it's just perhaps like too intimidating, where, what exactly are you doing? Or are you, trying to be like a monk or something like that? Or, I think for a lot of people, they think they already have to be really zen to sit down, and a lot of the feedback I'll get sometimes. Actually, just recently I put out on social media just kind of a question. I was curious, how many people in my network have tried meditation or regularly practice it, and just kind of curious what their experiences about it are as well. And a lot of the feedback I got was that people have tried it, but they have so many racing thoughts or, distractions and that kind of thing. And so it's not for them, or they couldn't do it. And I love that feedback, because that's kind of exactly why, for me personally, is why I sit down to meditate. It's because I have so many racing thoughts and distractions, and kind of constantly overthinking and anxiety and depression as well. And when I sit down, like, that practice and just breathing, even for 10 seconds, just like a deep breath, is already kind of meditation. And it does help you with those racing thoughts. You're not supposed to sit down and already be like a super zen monk and you have nothing in your mind. Like I actually just heard recently the other day as well, where and this is encouraging, of you can sit down for meditation and still maybe you're thinking the entire time with thoughts going through your mind, and that can still be considered a successful meditation. Yeah. So, I try to keep that in mind, and I guess that's one of the things that I'm trying to encourage. But one of the reasons I wanted to chat with you about it is because it is one of those things where I have a hard time, like, putting words to and expressing why it's good or why I do it. And I think I've had a hard time with it whenever I have, face to face with people in my family or close to me, try to talk about it. I do end up kind of getting a little woo woo, or maybe I don't have the words. And I think perhaps these days, especially the science behind something like that can be extremely helpful. I think I saw Headspace came out with some Netflix content, and I watched just the first episode, and a lot of it is just going through the science of why meditation is good for you, and I think that's awesome. I've been using Headspace. This is not a sponsored segment. I've been using Headspace guided meditations for the last couple of years, and it's something. Headspace is an app. It's something that I never thought I would get into because, like I said, like 10 years ago when I first started meditation, it was only ever silent. And I think I had tried a couple guided meditations and I was like, oh, this isn't for me. This isn't real meditation. I was on like a little bit of a different wavelength at that time. But nowadays I really like 99% of the time can only do the guided meditation. And I love it because it really does help my mind stay on track when I'm getting into the zone of just like spiraling out of thought after thought. And I completely forget that I'm even trying to meditate. I'm just like thinking about like what I'm supposed to do tomorrow. And then that leads to like some memory. And then,
Yeah, it's a never ending cycle.
Yeah.
One after the other, one thought after the other. And you can get pulled by that, the tide of thoughts. Right. So I definitely can relate to that feeling.
It's a really great. I gotta write that down. Tide of thoughts. That's gonna be a lyric one day. Do you do guided meditation or silent?
Once in a while, I do semi-silent. I have some meditative music playing. So usually some droning or ambient style of music that isn't intrusive. So there's something I can focus my ears on. So that there's many different ways to meditate, right? So you can focus on different sensory, I guess, input, right? So feelings or what you hear or smell or see, right? So yeah, I usually sit down with some ambient music. I used to actually meditate to deep drum and bass because something about the tempo at 170 beats per minute, it puts you, it easily facilitates meditation because it somehow the frequency of that tempo, it puts your mind falls into a trance more easily, and you're able to get into that state. So I used to do meditation off this podcast called Autonomic Podcast, which is like an hour and a half of deep drum and bass music that D bridge and instrumental we're doing. But lately it's more just ambient, beatless music. Sometimes I do sitting meditation. Sometimes I do lying down meditation. It just depends on, I guess, my mood. Lately it's more lying down, although I should start get back into more sitting down meditation because I find it's a little more intentional.
Okay.
Right. But what I would say is you may not know what you're doing for the first bit. Just keep trying it and practicing. So one thing I do is you can just sit and observe your thoughts, right? Sometimes that may be too much. So another tip is you can sit and focus on one sensation on your body, like on your hand or your feet, and feel, for example, feel your foot 100%. Put your 100% of your focus on what you're feeling on your foot, and then eventually you'll get into that meditative state, because trying to not think thoughts is too difficult, because by doing that you're just going to think more thoughts, right? But if you shift your focus on something else, such as a sensation on your foot or the sounds that you're hearing outside, or you could visualize something in your mental space, that's another way. Or focus on your breath, that's, I guess, the more traditional way. So just feeling how it feels as you breathe in and then as you breathe out, right? Just feeling and being one with that feeling, right? Shifting your focus there, and eventually you'll get it.
The breathing's really helped me for sure. I think the thoughts keep thinking. One of the things in the guided meditation, one of the helpful tips was, if it helps you to focus on your breath, count to 10 as you're breathing. And it's something I'd never tried before. And nowadays it's something that I find myself doing sometimes throughout the day as well. If I am meditating in practice, I'm only doing about 10 to 15 minutes at a time, maybe once per day at the most. But I've noticed that with the counting thing, sometimes throughout the day, if I find myself feeling really anxious or something like that, or even in the bathroom, like I'll just count to 10, and that already kind of helps to ground me a little bit more. So yeah, there's so many different practices, and it is kind of cool to see that at least within the last number of years, it's becoming more, I guess, trendy to talk about. Same with like the yoga and the healthy eating. I think maybe 20 to 30 years ago, that was only like, niche health food stores, like, practices. But nowadays it's, all over the place more and more. It's trendy to do yoga and eat healthy, which is great. I mean,
yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, this is really helpful. Thank you for being here and breathing with me and that sort of thing. Oh, yeah. I wanted to mention to you, just last night I finally finished the book that you recommended to me, Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. I'd been reading it for the last few months, kind of a little bit at a time, and I had just a few pages left, and so I was like, oh, it'd be great if I could actually finish this before talking to you, and I did, and I mean, I gotta say thank you again for that recommendation, because I think coupled with meditation, that book is probably one of the biggest drivers that has helped transform my life over the last few months. It's really helped me in, for the audience as well. Some of you might already know, but I've on a journey of sobriety now, where I've just over 3 months now am fully sober from all drinking and substances. It's something that, less so the drinking, but some substances and things like overeating and that kind of thing. I've always kind of had a bit of an addictive personality over the years, and my own kind of battle with that in many different ways over the years. And for many reasons that really I needed to make that all come to an end. I know that there's a lot of people out there that can moderate things, so it doesn't have to be all or nothing. For me, it had to kind of be all or nothing, and so I had to kind of say, if I'm really going to do this, I can't really do anything at all. And also, as well, I will say, for example, with alcohol, it's not even as much that I had a problem with alcohol, but that, one thing would lead to another, where alcohol would then make me want to, smoke weed or eat more food or not exercise the next day because I was tired. And so it was just kind of not really helping me get more good habits into my life. And in any case, it was a long time coming, and the book itself, it's really has not really much to do with sobriety or addiction recovery per se, but I think that came at such a perfect moment in my life that you recommended it. I think you'd recommended it to me a couple of times, and then I remember, and I hadn't picked it up yet. It was one of those books, so The Power of Now, I think I've been hearing about it for like 10 years. In my mind, unfortunately, I thought it was like what I had heard about it. I was like, oh, that's probably kind of like a woo-woo book, my ego mind there kind of clicking in. And then you'd recommended it a couple times, and I was like, okay, well, if you're recommending it, you're someone I really respect and admire. Like, that kind of made me kind of think maybe otherwise. Still hadn't picked it up. And then I remember one time we had a conversation, and I was letting you know that I was having some trouble with dealing with like the judgment from my parents. My parents come from a generation of, you want to have a good job with stability and, be super cultured and smart and that sort of thing. And so me kind of being an artist on the inside has always been definitely a challenge to kind of encourage myself to kind of go that route, because it's not really something that, even beyond my parents, I think society in general doesn't necessarily encourage you to, in any case, that's a different conversation. But I remember talking to you about having, just dealing with some challenges with that judgment. And you had sent me a video that Eckhart Tolle did. And I didn't realize that he did like a video series on YouTube. And I really loved the format as well, where it's just, people in the audience asking him questions, and he's very real, like in the moment, you know, responding to it. And I resonated so much with what he was saying and how, you know, we should have empathy as well for our parents and compassion. And on an unrelated note, I'd also been listening to some other content that was like, you know, you shouldn't necessarily live your life for the validation of others. And even if you hypothetically did everything your parents wanted you to do, at the end of the day, 30, 40 years from now, you're going to resent them and you're all still going to be unhappy and that sort of thing. So anyways, it all came together of like, okay, I should really read that book now. And I'm so glad I did. So long story short, thank you again so much.
Yeah, I'm really glad you read that book. Like I said, it's probably one of the most important books in my life, and to anyone out there that could find value, I definitely encourage you to read it. And like you said, it's not a woo woo book. It takes a very would you say pragmatic approach to these kind of topics on how you I guess come to terms with the inner world and the external world and how those two things relate to each other. That's how I kind of see it. How do you approach those two things, right? And I think anyone can benefit from this knowledge. Again, it's not spiritual. It's not religious. It's more a practical advice on how you can deal with the world and your internal world as well. So yeah, it's an important book for me, and hopefully anyone out there that's curious, it would be for you as well. And also check out Eckhart Tolle's YouTube channel. He puts out lots of videos on there, like Anna mentioned, and it's a great resource. Yeah,
100%. I can really see myself kind of now, like meditation, this book is going to be something that I want to like scream from the rooftops of like, please read this book.
Yeah. The first time I read it, it was so profound. It was like a light bulb went off my head. It's like, whoa, that's it. It's like, whoa, it completely changed my worldview and perspective. And yeah, huge.
Do you find yourself like having time or putting time towards like reading a lot? And if you do, are there sort of any other books you think that me or the audience might like as well? Or even not even necessarily books, but maybe even like, I don't know, content creators or video creators that sort of in the same vein are, you know, very encouraging and insightful and that sort of thing.
I haven't read as much recently. I read a bit more in the past. Another good book is The Alchemist. That's a good one. In terms of resources on the net, it's hard to name any off the top right now. I'm always learning how to improve communication. So there's, I think, Evan Carmichael's channel is a great channel for that. Yeah, there's tons. It's hard to name them off the top of my head right now.
I haven't heard of him, so I will definitely check that out. Thank you.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah. Oh man, I have no idea how much time this has been. I think we did pretty good. This is this probably feels like a good place to wrap it up. And just so grateful again to you, STRANJAH, my friend Alan, for all of your friendship and agreeing to be the very first guest of my very first podcast.
And I would love to do it more. Let's not stop here. I would love to come back for another episode. I think there's tons more that we can divulge on and converse on. So
for sure,
I congratulate you on starting your podcast, and I know it's going to be a success. So just keep at it. People, I think your story is relatable and people will appreciate it. So I do encourage you to share your story.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, I think that's what this is all about. Just, stories and good conversations with good people, just sharing what has helped them live life as a human being as best as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we all have a story to tell. And if we can all be honest about our personal truths, we can all grow together and hopefully make the world a better place.
Agreed. Thank you so much. I hope you have an amazing rest of the day and rest of the week.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We'll definitely chat again soon. And thanks again for being on. All right.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
Bye.
Cheers.